Good morning, YouTubers. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all over the world. Today we have just installed the forward mast into the ship. We got all the rest of the blocks installed on her, the netting. We got her down into the hull. I'll grab my flashlight here so we can see there. It's a rectangle shaped opening on that main block at the bottom of the hull. So we had to file off the end of the mast to accept that size. You see there where it passes through the deck members behind the stove. So today I need to work on making up the yard arms for this forward mast. Then we'll do the bowsprit after we get those done. So here's all the yard arms for the main mast and the rear mast. They're all done and ready to go on. But today, got to do the yard arms for the forward mast. So it's sort of a repeat, rinse and repeat. Those yard arms are here on the top part of this print. So I got to get all those pieces out and start cutting and shaping them. I don't know if I'll get those done this week or not. I've got a bunch of other stuff I'm working on in that process of always working on other things too. I installed a duplex receptacle out here for a ventilation fan in the greenhouse, and it's got a timer on it so it comes on whenever it gets to the heat of the day. So we had to run some run some conduit up and over and through into the shed, and make it where this circuit can be used for other things too. So sometimes I'll take my table saw or my chop saw. I got a chop saw back in there, saw horses, and set up a workbench so I don't have sawdust working in the shop. So what I've done with that circuit that comes from outside is put a regular plug on the end of it, and when I want to, I can unplug this timer and plug this straight into the outlet, and that gives me the ability to run the table saw or some other devices out there. And because these timers, I don't have a 3-prong timer, because these timers most of them come this way. They're like Christmas lights or whatever. I just made up a 2-prong cord into a female 3-prong receptacle plug, and that way the circuits, when it's used for plugging straight in there to bypass the timer, it'll have a ground. Back in the old days, there was no such thing as ground. They just used the earth in the pipe and everything. So that's one thing I did. The other thing I did was put border around the outside of the greenhouse here, down in the ground, to sort of frame out the spots where she has, my wife is always potting and planting something. So this frames out that spot where we don't have to try to weed eat in there in between the pots. And then I did the same thing here in the front of the shed, or the greenhouse, because she's always putting plants out here too, and their grass was invading our areas where the pots were, and it was just a maintenance problem. So with this border, I can weed eat up against that edge and not have to worry. And we got weed barrier down underneath that, keep the weeds from coming up. And last week I did this bed, and this week I did this bed here, so just to make it easier to maintenance on the grass going up into the different beds we got. Now I got to do that one next. I'll probably do that next week. I got to get some more border. That's something else I did, was make a little teapot bird feeder, and my wife was part of that little deal. I think she's got a video on her channel of cleaning up this pole and painting it and everything. And something else we did was put a little flower bed around the treehouse tree, and planted a bunch of flower seeds in there, and they're coming up rather nicely. We'll see some flowers in a few weeks. So this is my wife's workshop. She's got a kiln in there, and she does paint pours and works with all kind of different crafting things. So that's a dedicated place for her to make a mess. We got a sink in there, and we planted some sunflowers about 2 months ago now over here. The sunflowers are already past the first cycle. You get the heads like that one that's hanging down real heavy and the seed on it, we'll go ahead and prune it off. And we got some palmeras in the pots there, and some corn growing in between the sunflowers. So we're always doing something. And that something takes away from my continual concentration on the wooden model ship. So as we progress with the build, we'll try to make more videos on this ship too, because this is something we finished the end of 2020, because it's 2021 now. So we finished this in December 2020, and started this new San Juan right at Christmas time, I think, is when I did my box opening on this. So here it is, June now, and we're getting down to the nitty-gritty on the few last phases of the ship build. And one of my viewers made a comment. This is the end of the book here. That's the beginning. So this is the last page in the book. And the comment was in reference to more information on the different steps. And now that we've got this far in the book, we're at the very end now. We still have a lot of things to do, and these are the only photographs of those things to finish the rest of the ship, not to mention the miles of rigging ropes. So now that the photographs are pretty much almost over with, as far as rigging goes, I got this page here and the last page in the book. Now I'm going to have to depend on the prints and the parts list to do the rest of it. I have no more photographs or things to go by, so we'll get this cleaned off from the mast build and get set up for building these yard arms. You see me do that. I think I finished yard arms last week on the main mast, so this week we're going to work on the yard arms for the forward mast. And it's Thursday already, so I doubt that I'm going to get done. We got 3 more of these to build. Yep, one little one, one medium one, and one big one. I got this string at the dollar store. I think I'm gonna make some coils with it. Use those coils to add to the things down in the bottom of the ship. With the completion of the ship, there's going to be a lot of stuff we got to paint in preparation for installing down here in the bottom of the ship to look like the ship was actually doing something. So I think this big block of wood that's left in fact, we're going to be using this to get the last pieces of wood out for the yard arms. But that big block of wood that's in there, I think, gets cut up to make packages and bales and stuff like that. It'll be added to these barrels. So we got a lot of detail work to do, but just concentrate on one thing at a time and keep on plugging away on the wooden model ship. Okay, so we got all our stock pre-cut and shaped. You see how we did that before? We took the battery drill and we chucked that piece up in the drill, and then we just, while the drill is spinning, we hold this against the grinding wheel and we taper that down. It only takes 30 seconds or so. Switch it over to the other side and we taper all the pieces. These are the booms that'll get installed on there. You see the boom up there. So the next step is to take all these pre-cut ahead of time in the right length, and we're going to mark this where they go and glue them on there. So we got 7. I think that'll be enough to go around. 7 on that one over there, and 6 on the middle one. So we got to sit down and glue them on there after we mark it. Alright, so we got those stiffeners glued on. While it's drying, we're going to make up these little cleats. 507. Pre-done here. Sling cleats. I'm not sure what function they really perform, but I know that I had to make them on the other one. So it's 2mm by 5mm basswood with that little step filed or cut in there before we glue it on. So we got 2, 4, 6 of those cleats to make. So I went ahead and cut. Get this camera where you can see here. Went ahead and cut 6 pieces. And then I got a mark on there with a pencil for that step cut that we need to make. Last time I did these a little different, but I think if we use the Dremel, I might be able to do all 6 of them at one time, and then clean them up with the sandpaper. So we're going to attempt to make these cuts in there. The first cut at the bottom here, I'm just going to dive in. Somewhere around there. And then the second cut, I'm going to come in the top here. Since all the wood on the left side gets cut away, sort of doing this by eye. Trying to hold my hand straight. I've already made that other cut there. Now I'm going to dive down and make that connection with that first cut. I got the Dremel running fairly slow. So now I think I want to clean the rest up with a file. The basswood is soft enough to really make a mess if you're not careful. So let's see here. We want to make some nice corners on the inside there. This has got a nice corner cut edge on it, even though it's a round flat on one side and sort of round on the other. And do the same thing down on this bottom step. And the very top there, when I grabbed them and laid them on the table, I made the bottom flush on all pieces, so the bottom is flush all the way across. But you can see from when I put these in the little miter box and cut them all individually, they're not exactly the same length. So we're going to take this down now at the very end here and try to get them all the same length. Oop. That's how soft that basswood is. Very lightly sand these corners off. So I think we did 6 of them at one time. But anytime you want to build something, you got to think production. How can I mass produce this? You don't want to try to make these all one at a time. That not only would it take forever, but it'd probably almost be impossible to get them all to be the same. But doing it this way, they're pretty much going to be identical. Trying to cut in that corner a little crisper. So let's take these out. So there's our profile, and we got 6 of them. So let's see how close we came to matching that. A little high, aren't they? Now I know what I did last time. Is I made them the opposite way, and then I took the razor knife and cut them in half in the middle. That made them shorter. Let me see. Yeah, this is from the main mast. Those are pretty much the same as what we just made. But these are not. These are from the rear mast. See how short they are? You can't even see that second step. They're so short. So I'm going to stick with more definition. I think it looks better. If anything, we can sand off the bottom a little bit, make them a little shorter. So that's the kind of thing you run into every time you build something. We'll run those bottoms along some sandpaper and shorten them up a little bit before we glue them on. Because the short part there on the bottom is what gets glued on there. We can shorten that up pretty easy. Okay, so we had another debacle. Yeah, they give us these in the kit, and the inside diameter is like 1 millimeter smaller than what it calls for on that yard arm. That means I would have to file and sand or grind away 1 millimeter off of that. I said, okay. That's what I did on the main mast yard arms. I put this back in the drill and against the grinder and ground and ground and ground, and got those tapered down enough where these would fit on there. But then I said, oh, what if I just put this in the vise and put a bit in the dremel and open it up a little bit. I only needed 0.5 millimeter. Going over here to get one of these ones I did for the main yard arm. And you can see that taper there from to the size that it is in the middle out to the end. I had to do a lot of grinding on that thing just to get that stupid little ring to fit. So I said, okay, this time maybe I'll open the ring up instead. So I stuck one of the rings in the vise, put a bit in the dremel and started whooping on it, and it busted off that ring on the bottom. And so, oh my gosh, I want to try to solder that back on. I still got to fight these things. I had to, even a little one here, I had to whittle down to get it to fit in there. That was just too much. Doesn't really look that good. So pack up and punt. Now on the San Juan up here, we got that brass strip and a piece of wire on the end. That's the plans call for a piece of wire here for the end, but it didn't use the brass strip. It had these pre-made little pewter pieces. So why don't I just make the brass strip ones? They're just as easy, and I can make them to fit. I can make them to fit really snug. So that's what we did. I got 4 of them made up to fit both sizes of this, and when I go to glue this up, the super glue, I'm gonna pinch them a little bit with the pliers to make them really snug. But before I actually glue this up, I'm gonna put this against the grinder and taper these ends on these little what do they call them? I'm always searching for the right name. 545. Boom. They call these the booms. All these little ones that stick out. So, let me go clean them up before we glue up this. So I got a mark on here where this needs to glue up at, and according to the drawing and the orientation and the picture on the box, we want these like 22 degrees or 30 degrees off of the center of 90 from where these cleats are at. So not quite 90 degrees between the cleat and the face we're going to mount them at. We got our little pieces of wire for the ends already made up here, and we pre-drilled a hole 1 millimeter to fit the wire. That's a nice snug fit, so I'm going to scoot these back a little bit. See what we can do here. Move the camera back a little bit so you can see. The only thing I don't like about this glue is it leaves that little burr on the end there when I don't use it for a day or so. Other than that, the hole stays clear because the stinking cap's got a pin in the middle of it to keep the hole open, which is a good thing. So we want to get some glue on here. Scoot that up where the mark is. And we'll get some glue on this. Thought I'd be able to stick it in there, but that hole's so smaller than 1 millimeter. I'm always second guessing myself on the orientation. When I look at the picture on the box, that's where it's at. And on this larger yard arm, it goes right up to the edge of that stiffeners. So I want to squeeze this eyelet a little bit. Grab it nice and snug. Glue on the underside. Now the trick is to get this other side over here to line up properly with the side we just ran. I'm eyeballing this one over here compared to that one where it's sitting at. Sometimes it's hard to say what's really true and straight or not. Glue on this one. A little pinch on this one. Grabs it good. Now I'm adjusting it before the glue sets. From where I'm sitting, that looks the same on both sides compared to where the cleats are at. So that's one of them. And we'll do the same on this one. So in the process gluing up this last one, I pinched the wire here and it broke, it crushed my piece and broke it. So I said, oh no, get over to my stock and get another piece. Oh no, I don't have another one. Well, this is some stock that I got at Hobby Lobby, but it's not walnut, so I went ahead and stained these pieces because they were too light anyway. They'll match the other ones we've already done a little better, and it matches this walnut here. So in the process, tear something up, start over again. Okay, you can see we got the bottom yard arm completely ready to put the sail on and install it on the mast. So we got the little bearing wrap detail, the foot ropes, and there's like 10 or 12 of these 342 pulleys blocks. I think there's 10 of them, and a couple big double blocks and a couple 502s, which are single hole big blocks. So that and other features. So there's a lot of blocks on that little thing, isn't it? So that's that one is done. Now it's time to attack this one. And a couple less blocks on that, but otherwise it's almost the same. The bead bearing thing is a little smaller on this one here, but otherwise it's still going to take a couple hours just to tie in blocks and running the foot ropes and all this stuff there. I got to make all of it. I'm making the blocks up ahead of time and then tying them on individually one at a time, gluing the knot, making sure it's in the right spot. So that's what we'll be working on next. Is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Plus these two long ones. So 14 on there. This one probably had 16 because I think there was a couple extras in the middle compared to this one. So let's get at it. If I don't get this done today, just don't be surprised. We've got a lot of stuff to make up here before we can even set it up in the grippers and start working on it. Gotta make up all these blocks ahead of time. But thanks for watching.